Hey everyone, I'm Faith and I'm terrified to talk on camera. So here we go again. I was going to be talking about something completely different and significantly more light and fluffy, but something happened that made me go, oh my God, I don't think I can not cover it.
So I'm getting run through by 100 guys.
And that is, of course, the Lily Phillips 100 Men in 24 Hours case. Now, it's blown up the internet. If you've been living under a rock and haven't heard about this or have been moving in different circles, this OnlyFans creator has had sex with 100 men in 24 hours as a stunt. There was a documentary about it, and the presenter, Josh, showed everything from months before the event to casting the event to part of the event itself, and then the immediate aftermath of the event, where this is the bit that's getting controversial attention because Lily broke down in tears, said she had disassociated, was really seemed very overwhelmed and distraught. And that's what everybody has latched onto. The problem is that we're ignoring what's truly, truly terrifying about this documentary, because what we saw then, Lily's breakdown, is far from the worst part. I don't think it even comes close. So let's talk about this. And this is where I put a theme song, if I had one. So why am I qualified to talk about this? Well, I am a former fetish model. I spent 14 years working in the fetish industry. So before anyone starts to speculate, I was a fetish fashion model. You know, the latex clothing, the rubber suits and everything, they need catalogues, and those catalogues need models. There I am. Here I am, baby Faith. I think I'm about 25 here. Catwalk shows, fashion catalogues, occasional models for rope tying and all that. That was me. So I ended up professionally being part of that world, and there's a lot that the kink industry can actually teach about communication and safety, because one of the things they prioritize is SSC, safe, sane and consensual, and that's a theme that we're going to see running through this video. So let's get started. What the hell just happened? What the hell just happened? So Lily is a creator on OnlyFans. She came from a background that people generally wouldn't expect. There's often a stigma against adult content creators. She came from a wealthy background, many holidays, respectable family, and she, in her own words, put it that she was a massive slut at uni. Yes, I think many of us can relate to. And she decided, let's see what I can do about a fan site. Could I maybe get a little bit of money towards student loans, shopping, all of that? Well, she's pretty, she's white, she looks like the girl next door, she's not very obviously surgically altered, and she blew up. She said she earned $13,000 in her first month, and she wouldn't even say how much she's earning now, but the presenter, Josh, said it was probably more than you think. So I'm going to do a little bit of maths in this video, and it's not my strong suit, so I'm going to be very conservative in estimates. Let's say she's earning $100,000 a month. That's not much for crazy big creators, but let's just say that for now. Anyway, I think I've gone off the rails. So this woman is making bank, and throughout much of the documentary, she's explaining to Josh about the work that she does. She's explaining her job. She talks about like what a typical day looks like, and she makes it very clear several times that she enjoys the work that she does.
No, that's just fun to me.
The problem is that this documentary plays out like every single documentary about women in the sex industry that's ever existed that isn't made by women in the sex industry. It first starts off by showing the craziness of the world that she's in, and it pans over all the toys she plays with, and it's the inevitable music going dun 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 dun. Now, it's presenting it as freakish, but the thing is, for an adult content creator, this is Tuesday. So it's firstly not making an attempt to enter her world, it's showing you her world as an outsider, and that's going to be a massive problem because this is a huge failing of the documentary. It never once enters this world as an insider. So first, you're supposed to marvel at these crazy toys that she uses and the different things that she gets up to, and you see her start to film a custom video where she's talking down to some guy. She's being a dominatrix and has worn what he'd like her to wear. Typical custom content creation business. And throughout this time, Josh is questioning her about life, the universe, everything. And it's very, very interesting to me that most of the questions he asks her are not about herself, what she enjoys, what she likes about the industry. It's all about how other people relate to her. The first few questions are all about, what does your family think? What would a prospective partner think? It's all about how she is perceived in the eyes of another person rather than in her own view. And incredibly, because a lot of documentaries like to try and make women like this seem very stupid, she has a lot of very wise words to say on the matter. She firstly says, you have to remember, this is my kink. I'm into this. Secondly, she says, if she wants to have a partner, she will probably date somebody in the industry or somebody who shares her fetish. And that's very important because it is a thing. She used the term hot wife, which he didn't go into, he didn't even try to explore. That is where someone thinks their wife's really hot and gets off on sharing her with other men, and that she does too. Remember, safe, sane, and consensual. She's making it clear several times throughout this video that this is a thing for her. And I did look to see what she was famous for doing before this stunt. And she did seem to have this niche of their whole gangbang thing. That's what she did. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that she's genuinely into this. Josh doesn't explore that. He doesn't elaborate on that. He doesn't ask her about what that means to her. Instead, he moves on, but not before invalidating her opinion.
I know, and I know you're saying that to me right here, but I don't believe that.
And he makes this face. She's literally just said this. She's literally just said this is what she's into, and he is immediately shutting her down with, no, you can't be into that, I don't believe you. And then he asks her if she's a feminist. And I was waiting for the response that you usually see when people get interviewed for documentaries like this. But no. Lily immediately says,
Yeah, at the end of the day, doesn't feminist mean that you just want equal rights for boys and girls?
yeah, spot on. And so, of course, he moves on with the interview. And this is where it gets a little bit more insightful about her, because he says to her, are you a businesswoman? There it is. And we're going to come back to that later because her opinion of herself as a businesswoman is really very significant and very disturbing. So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the stunt itself. Now, as someone who has a lot of friends in this industry, I know a lot of creators, I know a lot of performers, not necessarily in the adult industry, just in general. You need a niche, you need a hook, you need something that's unique to you that gets people clicking and watching. And one of the things that adult content creators have harnessed is the power of rage bait, because the sort of misogynistic douchebag sexists in the Daily Mail tend to be the sort of misogynistic douchebag sexists that are paying these women's bills. So appearing in something like the Daily Mail with a butt full of injections and implants where you can barely fit through a door and going, I'm discriminated against because everybody thinks that my natural butt is surgery, is guaranteed to get the clicks of, it's obviously surgery, wow, 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 click, 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 click. We'd better look at our OnlyFans to see. Rage bait tends to pay. Saying, all the mums hate me at the school gates because I'm just so hot and everybody thinks that their husband wants me. It's just another way of advertising your business, because it's a way of getting the shock factor and getting you into the public eye and a greater audience. That is all it is. And if you work in this industry, you have to have a thick skin. So the idea of everybody going berserk in the comments section generally translates to them going berserk in the inbox too. And those women are laughing all the way to the bank with that. And so, with Lily's shtick, Lily's niche, Lily's well-publicised, self-declared thing for gangbangs, it is a natural progression and really very unsurprising that she would do an insane stunt like this. And so we move on to the build-up to the day of the stunt. I'm going to skip ahead very slightly because the aftermath is what's got everybody's attention. I don't think it actually would have got anywhere near as much attention if the aftermath hadn't been quite so disturbing to see. But we are going to go back to the event in a second. So Josh isn't able to film most of the actual event starting, but he is allowed in to the event after it happens. So he comes into the room, and the first thing is the smell in that room makes the cameraman gag. I have no idea whether that was just done for camera, but whatever. It's a mess. Lily comes out of the shower. She's exhausted. She's a bit shaky. And she starts to get very emotional. And she says, it's not quite how I imagined this to go. This isn't quite how I saw it. It felt a bit more like a conveyor belt, and I just wanted everybody to have a good time. I wanted it to go well. I wanted people to be pleased. And she gets very overwhelmed and she starts to cry. And she mentions disassociating. And people have picked up on this word, people have picked up on these tears, and people went nuts. The press started calling her a degenerate. The press started calling this condemnation of the adult industry, the horror stunt, the extreme. And somehow, apparently, this is her father's fault. And this is really where this stunt really seemed to hit the public consciousness. This is where the magnitude of what actually happened seemed to really hit people. And then you've got these think pieces and memes saying how tragic it was to look at her and watch her desperately trying to convince herself that she enjoyed the event. But let me tell you this. This emotional reaction is the only time in the entire documentary that she expressed any kind of upset, negative emotion, negative feeling to what had just happened. Now, I am not ruling out the idea that she might have hated everything. I'm not ruling out the idea that she's a very troubled person, that she only did it for the camera, that she hates herself. I'm not ruling any of that out. That is a possibility. But I think there is a far more likely explanation for what happened. And we're going to go back to the fetish industry here, because there is a term for an intense, emotional, often negative feeling reaction after an intense sexual experience, and that is called drop. And most people talk about sub-drop and dom-drop, and that usually refers to people that are having a submissive experience and people that are having a dominant experience. But drop can actually happen to anyone, because sex is a release of endorphins. It's you're letting someone physically into, I have no idea. I've got a side here. I have no idea what's about to get cut off YouTube. My account is not monetized, but I watched a documentary about shark attacks the other day, and there was a severed leg. There was a full-on actual severed leg. The leg was not attached to the body. There was blood everywhere, leg nowhere. That was fine, apparently. Anyway, back to the story. Sex is not necessarily an emotionally intimate experience, but it absolutely is a physical one. You're allowing parts of another person into parts of you, and that is intense, and especially when over the course of about 12 hours, because I think she started around 9 in the morning and finished around 10 at night, something like that. Over the course of approximately 12 hours, she allowed 100, I think 101 actually, different men in her. That takes its toll. And she mentioned she'd only had about a sandwich and I think like an electrolyte drink or something. She skipped lunch. So this is somebody with terribly physically sustained lack of electrolytes, lack of nourishment, lack of food, undergoing this incredibly physically strenuous experience over and over and over again, with the weight of expectation behind her, because this was so well publicised. And when it seems she's got maybe a little bit of a people-pleasing tendency, she wants them to have a good time too. That is a recipe for exactly what we've just seen on camera. I genuinely would have been amazed if she had come out of this going, hey, that was fun. People are latching on to the fact that she used the word disassociate, and I'm not sure it's as significant as maybe it sounded. Now, again, let me just reiterate, there is a strong possibility that she hated everything. But I personally think there's an equally strong possibility that this is the reaction of someone who has finally finished an incredibly enduring, this is an endurance feat, with less than adequate food. Of course she's emotional, she's tired and hungry.
When was the last time you ate?
I think I had a yam yam. Yam yam, is that what they're called? A little pastry. And I think I had a sandwich, and that was kind of.
Earlier in the documentary, Lily mentioned the fact that the adult industry can give people a very unrealistic expectation of how sex is supposed to go. And she's far from the first person who would have a fantasy go wrong. Think about the cliche is swinging, where a couple wants to spice up their relationship. So they bring another person into the bedroom and the whole thing falls apart and it gets messy and often ends in a breakup. That is the cliche. I'm very interested in psychology, and I have a book about sexual psychology, and someone talked about it in there. They said they'd been playing with somebody, the fetish industry again, where this person had said they've got a real thing for being caned. And so they start playing and the cane comes out, and this person's safe words. If you don't know, a safe word is a word for when you need to stop immediately, but you might normally say no is like a joking way, no, stop tickling me. And so instead, if you say pineapple or something, then it means no, shut it down immediately. That's what a safe word is. Anyway, this partner safe worded. And so they pulled back and warmed up again, took it a little more slowly, and the cane came out, no, safe worded. And so everything stopped. So this person very responsibly said, okay, talk to me. What's going wrong? Turns out this person had only ever fantasized about being caned. They'd never actually been caned in their life. Many people have had fantasies, or not even necessarily sexual fantasies. I think that's really important. Many people have found that when they achieve a dream, it's not what they expected. It's just unfortunate for Lily that her perception of what might have been about to happen has played out on YouTube for everybody to see. And one other reason that I feel that maybe this is more of a case of a drop for Lily rather than a reflection of how she truly feels her innermost secret feelings that, of course, all women in the adult industry are hiding, is the fact that this is the immediate aftermath. If Josh had come back to her after a few days, after a week, after a good night's sleep and a meal, and said to her, talk to me. How did it go? How do you really feel? I think she might have given a different answer. But this was the minutes, the half hour after this, and you can't really expect someone to think straight after that. Now, what really surprised me is that this event is actually very near to the end of the documentary, which means that the aftermath and the other factors that could come into what's going on here, Josh is completely ignored. And this leads me to what I think makes it extremely disturbing. Josh ignores every other voice in the adult industry. He does interview one other content creator who expresses almost immediately concern for the mental health of Lily after this event. However, this woman has not necessarily had the best experience with being a content creator. I believe, as far as I'm aware, she's actually related to someone famous, which means that she is under considerable scrutiny from this person's fans. So I will put the names and everything up here. It's Alex Tiss something, and she is known as the Queen of Southampton. Here's the problem. Alex confirms, it seems to Josh's mind, his concerns about the event. I think there are many adult content creators who would also express concern. But she's the only one he interviews, and her opinion seems to confirm his. Josh is blinded by the magnitude of this spectacle. He is so preoccupied by the freak factor that he is ignoring everything else that's under his nose and everything else that shows what is truly horrific about what is going on with Lily. Which brings me to the point of my video. Lily is making bank. She's made no secret of the fact that she is earning insane amounts from OnlyFans. She has the money to pay 100 adult film stars. She has the money to pay 100 male escorts. She has the money to pay 100 male OnlyFans content creators. But yet, she pulled men in off the street. So, what the fuck is going on here? And it all comes down to money. You see, when Josh asked Lily if she was a businesswoman, and this level of discomfort with the term businesswoman becomes very clear why very early on. You see, Lily doesn't know how much she charges for some of her content. Lily doesn't know how many members of staff she has.
Yeah, 9 now, yeah.
And the only reason she knows this is because there's a faceless woman sitting next to her who seems to be some form of manager for her. And this is where things start to get very, very, very disturbing. There are agencies, there are publicists, there are people whose job it is to make sure that adult sex industry people go into the best possible situations, scenarios, get publication, all of that kind of thing. And these people in general are very confident showing their faces, because to be managing the 100-man Lily Phillips would be a testament to their professionalism and ability to manage these people. But no, you've got someone sitting near her who won't even show their face on camera. And that makes me believe, I believe, and it is speculation, Lily's hired a friend and is paying her a lot of money, and she has no idea what to do with that money and no regard for Lily's mental health in any way, shape or form. Now, this manager admits herself that she shouldn't be an events manager, that she's done this terribly. And this isn't just some party where if you screw up then the food's terrible and no one has a good time. This is one woman at the centre of a storm of men amid the possibility, the very real possibility, that she could have physical, mental, spiritual repercussions that last her a lifetime. And this woman is hanging around outside with the men, not even in the room adjacent to her. There are dungeons in London, there are sex party events held in London, there are rooms and places and locations used specifically for filming adult movies in London. And yet, this is in some sleazy Airbnb where men are hiding around the corner because they don't want to publicise what is going on. Lily has the money to hire professional adult content creators, but instead they put out a call online for random men and then prioritised men who have had sexual health checks, but admitted that they could have picked something up afterwards. The manager said she hadn't even considered hiring security at first. And then some of the men did double duty because some men are professional security guards. Or, well, maybe they say they are. A good manager would have leveraged this exposure, the fact that she's very well known, the fact that she has all this money, the fact that everybody is watching this. But no. Cheap, 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 with no regard for Lily's mental health. And this becomes even more obvious when Lily is worried that she's not pleasing the men, and she is worried that she's only got through about 40 people, is less than halfway, and she's already hungry, and they decide that she won't stop for lunch, she'll just keep going. No, she should have been made to sit down, drink some electrolytes, breathe, eat, chill, take a break. No, this woman is outside talking to some of the men, and some of these men say, oh, I don't think I did it right. Oh, I think I performed badly. Can I have another go? Like Lily's some kind of fairground ride. And the manager goes, oh, yeah, of course you can, yeah. How dare this woman make that decision on Lily's behalf? And people watching the documentary would never know how an event like this is supposed to run, because Josh has ignored any other voices in the adult industry. An interview with a professional production company, an interview with performers who do this kind of content would have shown the real difference between what a professional production looks like and what was going on with Lily in that Airbnb. But no, Josh was more concerned about the smell in the room. And this is what I mean when I say this documentary made no attempt to understand Lily as a person. When she said, "This is my kink," They made no attempt to understand this kink or to explain this kink for the audience. Josh simply said,
I don't believe that.
Josh did not interview people from professional productions, because if he had, that would have shown what was truly horrific about this stunt, and it's not the stunt itself. Lily was left in a room with men, many of whom, as she said, had said, "Oh, I didn't get long enough. Oh, can I have some more time?" No. No. That manager should have been in there. There should have been some form of alarm or a bell to ring, something that Lily could alert someone to say, this man won't leave. This man is pushing. And here's the disturbing and tragic part that relates to Lily about her safety not being considered, and it is the only time in this documentary that I screamed, "Oh my God, you fucking dumbass," at the camera. Because Lily doesn't know how HIV is transmitted. When I was in school learning about STIs, HIV was a death sentence. I know that it is not anymore. I know that there have been incredible, phenomenal changes in drugs and in management of HIV. But that doesn't mean that you want to get it. You don't want to get the flu or a common cold. Who knows what any of these guys have had? Talk about a super spreader event. And yet, when Josh said to her, "Are you not concerned about HIV?" She,
In your mouth?
Yeah.
What if they had HIV?
Is that where it comes from?
if you want to work in the adult industry, you need to understand the adult industry. Self-respect starts with valuing your own safety. She seems to be paying someone to respect herself for her. And this safety, this complete and total lack of the safety of this solo woman stuck in a room with a queue of men, is just skimmed over by the documentary, along with many other things that each individually should be headline news. The social media double standard, the fact that people like Jennifer Lopez can promote a role as a stripper wearing sparkly lingerie on social media, but an actual stripper posting a photo fully clothed can be banned. I've been banned for wearing a flesh-tone bodysuit in a dance shoot, while I've seen actual nipples of influencers on social media. So the fact that she says she's constantly fighting to even be allowed to exist on social media is wrong. It's not fair. Banks. Now that should be headline news. Many escorts find that banks simply won't work with them. Our society, our lives often revolve around where we keep our money. And the fact that people in the adult industry are still discriminated against by banks needs to be looked into. Many people don't even know that. And finally, the other thing that needed to be extremely elaborated on, this is something that, again, Josh sort of reacted with shock, but he didn't quiz further. The fact that men who watched Lily grow up are sending her creepy messages, friends of her father's. These men should be ashamed of themselves, should be named and shamed. And let me tell you, it is a lot easier to name and shame someone when you've got the money and influence to do so. Because if Lily's income, this is where her income, my guess, comes in. I'm going to be really conservative here and say she's earning $100,000 a month. Let's say that gets chopped in half, $50,000 a month, by outing someone, by telling them to fuck off. She's still a millionaire. The fact that men who are friends with her father feel entitled to message her in that way is disgusting. And her response disturbed me more because as a model I used it myself.
I just tried to keep it very professional.
I just tried to keep things professional. When a photographer was following me around the room with a camera, clicking away while I was trying to get changed, going, click, just testing the camera, click, just testing the camera, click, just testing the camera, I tried to be extremely professional. Kept a very straight face. I changed like this and continued a very professional conversation. I did not address it. When a photographer was sending me creepy, explicit messages, someone who was later jailed for extreme adult sex crimes, I was extremely professional. I was a very new model. Oh, I don't actually do that kind of work. Oh, thank you for your inquiry and for your time. I think if you'd like somebody to do that to you, you should probably look into another model because that's not the kind of work I do. But thank you for your time. Disclaimer, the vast majority of people I work with as a model were phenomenal and wonderful and great people, etc., etc. I've got to insert this disclaimer here because, as we saw in the documentary, the second that you reveal any negative feeling at any point about an industry where you are looked at for your looks or photographed or anything like that, then that's it. That's, oh my God, that's her real feelings on the matter. The dark side of the industry. But it concerns me how she's taken that on board as well and has prioritised professionalism against her human rights to be treated like a human being. And this is the problem with the documentary. While on the surface it seemed very sympathetic, it is no more sympathetic than any other documentary that portrays women like this as a freak show. It focused entirely on the stunt that she pulled, which is fairly understandable in context, and it yet was never contextualised. Nobody who actually knew what they were doing from the adult industry was weighing in here. It was all just Josh's opinion, and Josh telling Lily what he felt that she thought. Now, this was Lily's choice, but however you feel about that, I think there's one thing we can take with us from the documentary. Safe, sane, and consensual. SSC. Lily was not safe. The men were not background checked. She was alone in a room with many of them. And they were not all adequately STI tested. Sane. Sane in general can refer to not being inhibited by drugs and alcohol, but it can also refer to mental health, taking care of yourself. Lily was not adequately nourished and taken care of, so no, I would say this is not sane. And consensual. Lily consented to the stunt. She didn't consent to men returning back and asking for another go. So I'm going to say no. This was not safe, sane, or consensual. I may not be a part of the scene, but I worked in the industry for 14 years, and the fetish scene taught me a lot about life, taught me a lot about spotting predators, which I now use to educate other women, but it also taught me a lot about taking care of yourself. And SSC, safe, sane, consensual, is something that I think we can all apply to life. And I can only hope that for her next 1,000-man stunt that she's claiming she's going to do, Lily learns that concept herself and starts with firing her manager. Please subscribe to my channel, there is so much more to come.